up guys, welcome back to another video. Before I get into today's video, if you didn't already, go check out part 1. There's going to be a link somewhere up here. Basically part 1 was me building a big bed frame in the back of this Toyota Sequoia. I go over all the details, the wood I used, the measurements I made, all of that. So if you're interested, go check that out now. Today I'm going to be moving on to part 2, which is building some slide out drawers. So I just got back from Home Depot, picked up all of the wood I need, and I'm gonna start the building process now. Alright, so I have a basic idea of what sizes these drawers need to be, but I'm just going to remeasure them really quick and just make sure that I have the correct sizes before I start making some cuts. My plan is to leave about 1/4 inch on either side. That way there's just a little bit of extra room for the drawer to slide out and it's not like pressed up against the edges like super tight. So just got the measurements, they're exactly what I had planned. So let's go cut some wood. Oh my gosh, I guess my dog thinks that this is a giant bed. Come on, come on, come on. Alright, so the first step is to measure out 70 inches. I'm going to make a few different marks along the board and then we can draw a line across. Using this thing again to draw that perfectly straight line. Super helpful again, just locks onto the end. That way I know that it's a perfectly straight line. So I just double checked, the line is at 70 inches, which is where I want it. So I'm going to use my good friend, the skill saw, to cut this thing. So with this at 70 inches, this is the length of a drawer. Next step is to measure out the width of the drawer. The first drawer is going to be 16 inches wide. And the second one's going to be 26.5 inches wide. I know they're weird numbers, but it just seemed like what worked for me and the equipment I have. I'm gonna measure that out now and then make those cuts. It is only February in Portland, but it is hot today. Wow. Sweet, so this is pretty much the first drawer here. So yeah, drawer seems to fit. There's obviously no weight in there right now, but it does slide somewhat decent. I did pick up a few different things to try for kind of like a DIY slider. The reason being, these drawers being 6 feet long, I would need 12 feet sliders. Those are not cheap, and I'm trying to do this for a reasonable price. So picked up a few cheaper things that I'm going to try just to make the drawer slide easier. Get into that later in the video. This next drawer I'm cutting at 26.5 or 26.5 inches as the width. Sweet, so second drawer, the base at least fits. Next step is to take the 1x8s that I got, cut those for the kind of like the sides, and start putting it together. I got a few different sizes of 1x8s. This first one is 10 feet long. The plan for this is to make one 6-foot cut. That's going to be one side wall for kind of like the long way. Then I'm gonna do one cut that is 16.5 inches. That's going to be one sidewall for the small drawer. And then the remaining space, I'm going to make a cut that's 27 inches. That's going to be one of the sidewalls for the bigger drawer. And then I got the second one of these 1x8s, also 10 feet long, and do the exact same thing. And when I'm done, I'll have minimal wood left over. I'll have 2 6-foot sections for one of the drawers, and I'll have the kind of front and back for both of the drawers. So it'll make more sense once I start measuring out and cutting, and I can show you guys kind of what I'm doing with it. But this was kind of like the best way for me to make the most out of that wood. Unfortunately, I just made my first mistake. For some reason, I cut this one side piece to 72 inches, which is 6 feet, when the board is only 70 inches. I guess I was just trying to go too fast here. But it's just a good reminder to take your time, check your plans, and just make sure you're cutting everything right. This is what it's supposed to be like. There's a little bit of room, 0.75 inches on this end for board to go that way, and then on this other end another roughly 0.75 for the back support. The board was 10 feet long. We took about 6 feet off. That leaves 4 feet, so we're going to cut one piece that is 26.5. That's the width of the wider drawer, and then one piece that is 16 inches, and that's the width of the smaller drawer. So the piece that I cut to 26.5 is right here. It's one of the walls for the wider drawer. And then this second piece, which is 16, should sit right here, kind of as the one of the end walls for the smaller drawer. And like I said, just going to repeat the exact same process on the other 1x8. This time we're going to try and make the right measurement the first time. So not 72 inches, but 68.5. While I'm picking some of this stuff up too, this is all of the wood I had left over from that 1x8, so pretty happy with that. Not a lot of wasted wood. That first piece, the biggest piece, is cut. Just checked the measurement and it's 68.5, which is what I was hoping for. The next steps are to measure out the smaller end pieces. Got those two measurements marked, 26.5 on this side and 16 on this side. Nothing is actually assembled or put together, but I laid out the pieces that I just cut to kind of show you guys an idea of what it's looking like. So this is the biggest drawer. This is the one that's about like 26, 27 inches wide, almost 6 feet long. And then the smaller drawer, this piece will go at the back of the drawer. And you may notice this one doesn't have side supports yet. That's what these are for. So these two pieces I got here are both 6 feet long. I'm cutting them to 68.5, so just taking like a couple inches off each end, and then those should fit perfectly as the side supports. This is the first 6 foot piece. So just gonna make one cut, turn this into a 68.5-inch piece, and that should be the right size to form one of these side frame pieces. This is the second 6-foot board, doing the exact same thing, measuring the 68.5 and making a cut there. Here is what this drawer looks like. This piece will go on the end there as the back frame, but looking pretty cool. If you watched my first video of the building process where I built the frame, you saw that I kind of traced outlines of these support beams. I think I'm going to do the same thing. That works really well with the frame. So here's the outline. Super helpful to have, doesn't take very long. This whole setup might look super similar to when I was building the frame. Building these drawers is almost identical to building the frame, pretty much just on a smaller scale. The way I built the frame seemed to work well for me. I don't see any reason to change it up, so just gonna pretty much do the same thing I did for the frame. So now that I have 2 pilot holes, one on each end, before I start to drill any more pilot holes, I'm just going to lock this board in using a couple screws. Just got 2 screws in, just to hold it in, and the next step is to drill a few more pilot holes and then get screws in those as well. Here's a update. Got the second support in. Did the exact same thing, just 6 screws along the bottom. And now you can see we have this little outline where the end pieces go. So one will go here and one will go on this end. So just got this end piece screwed on. Honestly, not super impressed with my job. I was hoping that it would be a little straighter along the edges, but the drawer seems solid, so that's all that really matters. Gonna move on to the other side, and then this drawer will almost be done. So I just got the other end piece in. You can see here. This one definitely turned out a lot cleaner than the other side. So probably just going to make this the front of the drawer, and then the ugly side will come on the back so no one ever has to see it. For now, I think I'm going to start building the second drawer. I'm just gonna start with drawing the outline again, just like I did with the frame, just like I did with the second drawer. The outline is done. Here is what it looks like. I will say, if you are thinking of doing something similar, building like a bed or drawers in the back of your SUV or car, or whatever it might be, van, bus. It does take a little bit of time, but the process is pretty much just the same thing over and over. So just make sure you get the measurements right, and it's totally doable. All right, both of these longer frame supports are in. Just been doing the exact same thing as with the frame, as with the other drawer. It's been working super well. Sweet, the frame is put together. Just kept repeating the same process. I'm just going to test fit it in the vehicle now. Both of the drawers are in. Both of them worked just as I was hoping for. I'm just taking measurements for these drawer ends or covers. I don't know exactly what they're called, but basically I want it to go all the way from this corner to the middle, and then all the way to the top. So just as a super clean flat surface. show you guys here to get a better idea. This square here is going to be the frame cover. So this piece will sit flat on the end of the drawer. So now that I have this piece cut, I'll show you guys what I'm thinking. So that's gonna sit like this. Now I'll put carpet on it and put a drawer handle, but there's gonna be one on this side, one on that side, and that just kind of like cleans it up and makes it look like it's more finished. Basically this square here is gonna turn into the drawer cover for the right or the bigger drawer. And there's the cover piece. So with both of those drawer covers kind of roughly positioned, this is what it looks like. I got the drawer lined up pretty much where I want it, so I think just gonna try to get a couple of screws in here and lock this thing in. I just grabbed a smaller screw because I just was thinking if I use the 1 or 2 inch ones, they're gonna go straight through and be sticking out on the inside of the drawer, and I don't want that, so picked up these smaller ones, maybe like 1/2 inch or so. I'm gonna see if that does the trick. Alright, just got 4 screws in. Let me pull this thing out. And let's see. Oh. So I decided to add a extra wood chunk I got for one of the cuts earlier on the inside. That allows me to use a longer screw. Like you just saw, using shorter screws is just not strong enough for the weight that's gonna be in this drawer. So, alright, so I went ahead through 4 screws in. I used those wooden blocks on the back here. They're just left over from the 1x8, so they're already like the perfect height, and you can now pull this drawer out. So, might add a couple more screws in here. Alright, that's 6 screws on this side. This thing is definitely solid now. I'll show you guys what it looks like from the other side. Just use the extra from the 1x8s. And this allows me to use a longer screw without them sticking out. I left the center open because that's where I'll put the handles. But first, gonna wrap this whole thing in carpet. Getting super close to finishing now, so pretty exciting to see this come together. I just did pretty much the same thing on this drawer. I'll show you guys here. Just used some extra cuts from the 1x8 to give the screws somewhere to bite into, and then again so that I can use longer screws. Seems to work pretty well. Kind of laughing at myself from earlier for trying to use these things and thinking that these tiny screws would be strong enough to pull out some weight. But that's okay, at least I learned something, and this seems to work well. I have the measurements of these frame or these drawer covers, so I think I'm going to pretty much draw an outline of that, maybe like adding an inch or so on each side to allow me to kind of wrap it over. Maybe not even that, maybe like 1/2 inch on each side to wrap it over, and then I'll cut that piece out and then try and like staple it on here. So this is our piece. I just covered this thing in staples. Here's with the handle. Just picked these up from Home Depot, pretty cheap, and then just 4 screws, so super easy to get this in. I just went straight through the carpet, no problems. I picked these handles because they're flush, and since this bed's already close to the end, I didn't want like a big handle like coming out a couple inches, so these are nice because they're flush, but then of course when you pull them they come out and give you a great handle. Just gonna like do the exact same thing now to this other drawer. So with these drawers pretty much done, that's gonna be it for today. I still have a few things left to do, so I'm probably gonna do that soon, maybe tomorrow or a couple days from now. So I'll jump to later this week. Welcome back, guys. It's a few days later. It's finally time to finish these drawers. So I just have 3 things to do today. The first is to cut out and install some carpet at the bottom of the drawer. Second is to install some like DIY sliders. So I just bought some Masonite wood, which is just kind of like a slippery finished piece of thin wood. So I'm going to cut that and just install it on the bottom of the drawers. And then the last thing to do is to create some drawer stoppers. I just don't want these drawers falling out when I pull them out, like to get something in the back of the drawer. So that'll help just like lock these in, make sure that doesn't happen. So yeah, those are the 3 things to do. Trying to get it done here before it starts to rain in Portland. So let's get started. First thing on today's list is to put some carpet at the bottom of the drawers. This will kind of like just maybe help with some sound dampening, but also just kind of create a nice soft surface, so all of my like camera gear and equipment and stuff isn't just sitting right on wood. First thing to do is measure the inside of the drawers. The measurements for this left drawer, 67.5 inches long and 14.25 inches wide. So if I cut that out, it should hopefully just sit in here super nicely. You can see here I just traced the outline of where I want to cut. It's this giant rectangle here. Alright, now I have this giant rectangle here. Let me go see if it fits in the drawer. So here's the rectangle, and my idea is to use it kind of like as the padded area at the bottom. So here's kind of what it looks like. I might try and fasten it down with some staples. Seems like it already lines up pretty well. If you don't have one of these, I've never used one before I started this project, but this staple gun has come in handy so many times. Super easy to use, super cheap. Definitely recommend it for projects like this. I just put 4 staples, 1 at each corner, just to secure this in. And then I'm just gonna add a couple staples along the sides just to make sure the middle doesn't move around. So now when you pull this drawer out, super nice layer of carpet down below. So this will be perfect for all of my camera gear and equipment, drones, everything. Seemed to work well on that one. Gonna do the same thing on this drawer over here. Doing the exact same thing for the second carpet piece. Just started by taking the measurements of the drawer, then drew the outline, and the next step is just to cut it out. I have this weight here too. Just helps create some tension and makes it easier for me to cut. The other piece is cut. Just pulled this bigger drawer out, and let's see if she fits. Carpet's in. I think that means pretty much done with the first thing I wanted to do today. So I think next on the list is trying to cut some of that Masonite to put on the bottom of these drawers. The only size of this Masonite I found was a 3 foot by 7 foot sheet, which unfortunately isn't enough to cover the bottom of both drawers. I'm going to cut 2 strips that are 11 inches. That'll be for the bigger drawer. And then that leaves 14 inches, so I'll cut 2 7-inch strips, and those will be for the smaller drawer. And I know this is definitely not going to work as well as like getting some heavy-duty sliders. I'm not looking to spend over $1,000 on a couple sets of sliders that are 12 feet in length, so this is kind of like the budget option. Here's the outline. Super similar to the other outlines I've drawn in my videos, but these green lines are all the cuts I'm going to make. This is kind of what I was imagining. So these are both 11-inch strips of this Masonite. It doesn't cover the whole drawer, but it does most of it. I just attached the sliders. Staple gun actually worked perfectly. I just put 4 staples in along each corner. For now, I think I'm just gonna stick with it. Drawer pulls out, even if it does take a bit of force, it does work, and that's really all I needed to do for now. Last thing I want to do for today, I think it's easier to show you than trying to explain it. So right now when you try and pull this drawer out, when you get out farther, the drawer tips down. And the reason for that is because there's maybe like an inch or so gap between the 1x8 and the top. So my plan is to, at the very back of the drawer, I'll show you on the smaller one here. I got a little 1x1 block, and I want to put it right here just to elevate this back piece. That way when the drawer gets pulled out farther, there's no space for the drawer to kind of dip down. I'll show you guys here kind of as an example. This is that, it's like a 1x1, I guess it says like 0.75 by 1.5. Just 3 feet long, so I'm gonna make a few cuts on it, trim it up, But if I jam it in here, it fills that gap between the 1x8s on the drawer and the top, and I have it all the way to the back in there. And you'll see if I pull this drawer out farther, it doesn't dip down like it was before. Can pull out farther and it still stays pretty flat. I'm gonna leave it right here, pull this out, and now watch how much the drawer dips down. All like that. So I'm gonna cut this up, put it on the back of the drawer, and it should hopefully prevent this from happening. So this is with the end piece attached. I'm gonna go throw it in the drawer and see if it does what I want it to. So it works. It definitely stops the drawer from dipping down. The thing is, because that is so tall and I have those horizontal supports going across the underside of this frame, when you're trying to push it in, it kind of hits it. You can just lift it up a little bit and it slides in easily. Slides out perfectly fine, but pushing it in, you just hit those horizontal frame supports. So although this works really well, I think I can make it even better. It's just really annoying when you're trying to push the drawer in and it just hits the underside of those horizontal beams I put in. So I'm gonna take this off. I have a couple ideas that I'm gonna test out, and if that works, I'll kind of show you guys what I did. I put these horizontal beams in, and what happens is the drawer still tips forward a little bit, goes in the big flat area, and then I try and push it in, and because these are open, it gets stuck on like the edge. So what it needs is a fully flat surface so that it doesn't run into these edges here. I have this big leftover strip of 1/2" plywood. My plan is to cut this into tiny little strips and then put this at the top on the corner, and it'll only be like a 1" strip, and that will go all the way back. And then I'll take this again, and instead of mounting it on the back like this, I'll mount it flat. The reason for that is because there's gonna be that extra 1/2" of plywood, and if it's vertical, there won't be enough room for it to fit in there. So it's gonna be flat, and then instead of being on the back, I'm gonna put it on each side, just like a little block like that, maybe like 2 or 3 inches, and same thing on the other side. I'll show you guys kind of like as I put it together, because I think this might work and solve that problem. I'm gonna try some glue, just some like simple wood glue. Let's see if that holds these in place. So while that glue dries, I'm going to take this extra piece of 1/2" plywood and cut 1 1/4" or 1 1/2", somewhere around there, strips. My idea is have them on the corner or the edge. I think if I just like screw in the front here, it can just kind of hang, because the drawer should push it up and hold it up in the back. So I got 1 screw in there. I'm gonna try and get a second one, just to prevent the back from sliding back and forth. This is what it looks like now. These are just leftover pieces of 1/2" plywood. I cut them to 1 1/4" inches wide. Shoot. It is now hailing. It's just in the middle of trying to troubleshoot some things, and now we got this. I thought this was just gonna be a super quick morning with just like a little bit of work, but unfortunately just keep running into more and more problems. But seems like that's always how these projects go. The glue isn't really fully done, but I really want to test this now that I trimmed little strips. So I just duct taped one of the squares on that felt a little loose, and I'm going to slide it in and test it out. The drawer does slide all the way in this time. Now I'm going to pull it out and see when it's extended out if it drops. Still really flat here. I'm gonna go super far out for one, and yeah. All right, let me show you guys this. The drawer's out maybe 3 feet, 3.5 feet. It's still flat, which is absolutely great. That's exactly what I was going for. I'll pull this one out for comparison. This one this right drawer does not have the supports in it yet, so I'm gonna pull out the same distance, and look at that. Look at how much more this one dips without those little blocks in there. So I just pulled the drawer out. I'm gonna let those blocks dry longer. I just really wanted to see if it fit, but I'm so glad that worked. Like, I was about to just call it quits and move on and accept that the drawer is just gonna dip. But yeah, I am just so glad this worked. Once I let the glue dry and get this right drawer assembled, I think the drawer should be done. Super glad to be coming to an end with this one. This part of the project was a little bit frustrating. Thankfully it's coming together. So I'll show you guys once this right drawer is done. So only thing left to do now is letting the glue dry on those blocks, and then the drawers are gonna be done. Definitely ran into a few problems here at the end, and it took a little longer to get these built than I was kind of expecting. I think it was worth taking the extra time to get these to work exactly as I wanted. Thanks so much for watching. I hope this is either interesting or helpful to you. If you guys have any questions or comments about the build or anything else, feel free to message me. Drop a comment below. My Instagram will be in the bio. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps me out, and again, it's completely free. And with that being said, I'll see you guys next time.